Parenting family, and welcome to the Conscious Coffee Break. Today we're going to be talking about transitions. So let's talk about transitions. I'm in the middle of a huge transition. We are moving across the country right now. Today's Wednesday, so Friday we'll be having our stuff loaded on a moving truck, and next Monday we'll be flying. So this is on my mind right now, talking about transitions and about what that looks like and what things come up in transitions. So before I get into talking about transitions and all the things that I want to make sure you're thinking about and processing and know to look out for in transitions, I want to introduce myself and do a little bit of housekeeping. So I'm Jen Kobrick. I'm a holistic family consultant with the Consciously Parenting Project, and that means that I have completed a 2-year training with our founder, Rebecca Thompson Hitt, and I hold space for families and parents, and I really love to support families and parents and their kids, and help people find more joy and connection and peace in their relationships. So our housekeeping is that we are opening our next 6-month membership, and that link is in the show description. So if you would like some more of these kinds of tools and information to help you and your family, and especially if you need some hand-holding to help you actually apply them in your life, then that membership is a great place to get all of those support. So you can find that link in the description. And you may notice the description is shorter than usual this week, and that's because, as I said, we're in the middle of a transition ourselves, which means that I don't have Wi-Fi right now, so I don't have my laptop at the moment, so I will have to go back in and add all of our usual links and description after the fact. Okay, so let's talk about transitions. So big transitions are easier to see what's happening than little transitions, of course, right? So, we think of moving, for example, as a big transition. We think of birth as a big transition, both for the baby and for parents becoming parents, or for siblings becoming older siblings. We think of those as big transitions, and so sometimes we expect to see challenges in those moments. But little transitions, like getting out of bed in the morning, leaving the house to get in the car to go someplace, all of those kinds of transitions are also transitions. And the same things come up in those little transitions as in the big ones. So that's the first thing that I want to say, because we're going to talk about a lot of these things in the context of a big transition because it's so easy to see. But the same things are coming up and are happening in small, everyday transitions. So if as I'm talking about the things that are coming up in a big transition, like a move, and you're going, that sounds like my kid trying to get outdoor in the morning, then yeah, it is, because that's also a transition. And so you're totally going to see the same things. So the first and most important thing that I want to say is that in transitions, all our stuff comes up. So a transition, another word for that is a sequence. And in Consciously Parenting, we talk about that a sequence is supposed to have a preparation, a beginning, a middle, an end, and a rest. And we all have imprints about our sequences. And so this comes from our very earliest experiences, birth, and sometimes even before birth. And it can also be influenced by other big events in our lives. So we all have an imprint, and each person's imprint is a little bit different about how sequences go. And those imprints show up in transitions, show up anytime we try to complete a sequence. So in a big transition, they show up in a big way. So, if your imprint is that you always have a really hard time starting, for example, then that's going to show up. Let's say you're moving, you might be like, you've got the pile of boxes, you've figured out your move date, you've made all the plans, but you just don't actually start packing. And the boxes just sit there, and the move date gets closer and closer, and you just don't pack. Right? So if your imprint is that you have a really hard time finishing things, then you might make all your plans and get all your supplies, and you start packing and you're making steady progress. And then as things get close to the end, it's like you just can't quite get those last couple of boxes packed, and the movers show up to load the truck, and you still got 3 or 4 boxes worth of stuff around the house that you're frantically trying to catch up on. Right? So those things show up really obviously in a big transition. But they can also show up in the little transitions, like you have plans to go someplace and you just can't seem to actually pick up your bag and put on your shoes and go, for example, with having difficulty at the start of the sequence. So all of those sequences and those imprints can really be a clue about things that we need to heal and process, and stories that need to be told. And that's a big part of the work that we do at the Consciously Parenting Project. But something that can be really helpful, because we all have our sequence, right? We all have our imprints and our patterns, and our kids do too, and our partners, if we have a parenting partner, and even other people in our child's lives, other caregivers or grandparents. If they're close to us, then then those other people their patterns might be coming up, even though they're not directly involved in the transition. So everybody's stuff is getting all stirred up in a transition, and everybody's having a pattern, and everybody's patterns may look a little bit different. There may be different points that are more anxiety producing or more challenging for different people in a family. So the first thing I want you to hear is that we can go into a transition, especially a big transition, expecting that everybody's going to need additional support. Expecting that for ourselves, expecting that the adults are going to need additional support, and also expecting that the kids are going to need additional support. And that means the kids are going to need more space to have big feelings. Especially if the kids are really young, it means they're going to be acting out. They're going to be, what other parents might call misbehaving. These things, they're going to be bickering with each other. We can expect that these things are going to come up, because we can expect that everybody's challenges are going to show up in a transition. And we can expect that the adults are going to need more space, more support, because we're going to need to hold space for those kids. And our own stuff's going to be coming up at the same time, right? So our kids need more because their stuff's coming up at the same time as we have less to give, because our own stuff's coming up, and, we're busy dealing with the transition, the practicalities of the transition. So we can totally expect that everybody's going to need additional support. And that can look like, setting up some appointments, or, for support and for someone to be a listener. It can look like, arranging really awesome people to play with the kids for a little while, so that you have some space to deal with things and you're not trying to juggle both at the same time. And it can look like letting go of some things temporarily. It can look like making choices about which are the most important things during this transition, which are the things that are really, feeding my soul and refilling my cup so that I can keep going with this, and which are the things that I can, push off for a week or 2 weeks or a month and deal with later. So how do we decide which things to let go of to make more room, make more space in these transitions? And that's where we talk about listening to inner guidance. So we, the same things might not work for each person. For one person, and we talked about this in the self-care video as well. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch the self-care video as well. About that, each person is going to have certain things that are like baseline most important to their functioning. And those are the things that really are non-negotiable. For example, if I don't do some yoga, not only is my body going to hurt from all this packing, but I'm also going to get totally, unable to be calm as a parent. But I can get away with, eating nothing but pizza and Cheerios for a few days. Not for weeks, but for a few days, because that's my baseline. Those are the things that are most necessary for me to function. So I can choose to let go. I can check in with myself and think about, is this something that's really feeding me, nurturing me, making it easier for me to get through this transition? Or is this something that's making it harder, taking space away from this transition? And that's that inner guidance piece of checking in and listening to, to our own inner guidance. If I sit with this, does this feel like it's going to give me more space or less space? And then the other big thing that I really want to bring out about transitions today is about that this is an opportunity, because I know in the middle of a transition, when everybody's patterns are showing up and everyone's stressed and maybe anxious, maybe not even realizing why they're so agitated. I'll tell my story in a minute. I'll finish this thought before I get into the story part of this. So we can really, we can not even necessarily connect, what's happening, and where big feelings are coming from. We may not even recognize that they're coming from this transition or that they're connected to these imprints. But even when we don't see those things and we just feel, we feel the overwhelm and we feel the challenge of being in that space, it can feel like, well, if this is an imprint that goes all the way back to my birth, then what's the point? Why bother noticing that or caring? Because it's just going to mean that every transition is miserable because this imprint's been there since I was born, right? And so I want to talk about this as an opportunity, that absolutely that doesn't feel good, and that can really show us, oh man, these are some places that once this transition's done, I need to look at, and I need to do some healing, and I need some support, and I need to process, and absolutely, that can be there, and sometimes it can be really glaringly obvious of, oh man, do I have some work to do, right? And that can not always feel so good, but it's also an opportunity to see the healing that's already happened. It's an opportunity to see, oh, like my pattern's coming up, but I'm not like screaming at anybody. It's an opportunity to see where, our imprints don't go away, our patterns don't go away, but we can transform the way that we interact with the pattern, and we can transform the power that the pattern has over us in present time. And that's where the work is. That's where the healing is. And so then these transitions can be an opportunity to see, oh yeah, my pattern's still there. I'm still me. I still have this imprint, but I'm not responding to it in the same way that I might have a few years ago. That is a great transition into the story that I wanted to tell. Because part of my imprint is that I prepare and I start things with lots of intention, and then somewhere in the middle, I want to just rush and be done. I want to just chop off the end of the middle and the end, all rushed into one, and then I don't rest. So that's my imprint. And it's still there, and about, so we've been in this move, really in the thick of it, for about 3 weeks now. And so I'd say about a week ago, so right about smack in the middle was where we hit the point where I was like, so agitated and so anxious and so like, can we just throw away the rest of the stuff and move tomorrow, because I can't take this being in the middle of it thing anymore. And thankfully I have the tools that I have and the support that I have here with the Consciously Parenting community. And I could go and talk about that and really realize, oh yeah, so I'm totally in this pattern still, right? That pattern's still there and it's still showing up. But I didn't throw away the rest of my stuff and hurry up and move tomorrow, right? I was able to sit with that anxiety and get the support that I needed to move through that and to make space for that and to stay mostly pretty well regulated with my family, even while being in that really intense place and holding space for that place. So that's the change that can happen, right? It's not going to ever be easy for me to be patient with being in the middle. That's just not my imprint. But it has changed to a point where I can be present with the discomfort and also hold space for everybody else's patterns. Yeah, that's where I wanted to talk about transitions. So transitions are hard. That's not your imagination. And transitions are really a window on information about our own sequences and our own imprints and our own stories. They're absolutely a window on the places that need to heal, and also on the work that has already been done and the growth that has already happened. So if you have questions or comments about transitions and what that looks like, then please put them in the comments. And I think I can see comments here doing this. I haven't done one of the lives from my phone before. So if you are watching live and you have questions or comments, then let me know. And if you're watching this later and you have questions or comments, then go ahead and comment and I will come back and see those later. So if you are in a transition or have been through a transition and things didn't go so well, or if you're noticing things about your patterns or your kids' patterns in transitions, then let us know. And again, we are opening our next 6-month membership. You can find that link in the description for this video. And in our membership, we have weekly course content, bite-sized, couple of minute videos, or you can read the transcripts of the videos. This next 6 months, we'll be going through our founder, Rebecca Thompson Hitt's third book, which is all about feelings and all about how we can connect with ourselves and with each other and with our children, and how we can reframe some of the behaviors and the big feelings and use them as communication and as opportunities to connect. So it's big stuff and it's really transformative information and tools. And then along with that information and the book, we also do monthly Ask Me Anything calls. Those are with our founder, Rebecca. And we have Healing Story Circles, which is space to be seen, heard, and understood, and have a space to share and get the support for yourself. And I lead those. Rebecca will also be leading some of them with me. And then we have a private Facebook group that's just for members, which is another great place to share. And new this time, we are going to have some live calls that are just for new members, because the longtime members kind of know what a Healing Story Circle is, and they know where to find all the information, and they know all about consciously parenting, and so they can just flow right into all of that information. And the brand new members, we want to make sure that you know about all the resources that are available to you through the Consciously Parenting Project, and that you have a space to learn about this process and to really have space to be heard and to be to experience having that compassionate listening. So I hope that you'll join us in the membership, and if you have any questions, feel free to send a message or leave a comment, and I hope that you all have a lovely week. Oh, and a reminder for next week. Next week, our Spanish team will be doing the live video, and I will make sure to put their little blurb about what they're going to talk about up in the event for next week. So I will see you in 2 weeks, and we will still have a live video next week from our Spanish team. So have a lovely week.